see 60 frames per second games on this box, absolutely. Also, the super sampling that we do from the internal 4K buffer that we have to the 1080p display, you will see games that look better on your projector than you've ever seen on any other console, even at 1080p. Like, that was important to us. But it was from the very beginning of the amount of RAM that we have in there, the speed of the RAM, the speed of the hard drive, the memory transfer speeds, CPU, GPU, all of this thing was around hitting a certain design point with the console, and the team did an amazing job landing it, and we were very proud of it. And the feedback we've been getting from the third-party developers has been fantastic. Yesterday, sitting here today, showing our games, it was about 42 games filling up the time. But I know people want to see what we're investing in new, and we are investing in new things. We've signed things just recently that I thought about, hey, from a PR standpoint, it'd be really easy for me to go put a trailer on screen, even though I know the game's not coming for 2.5, 3 years.
Right.
I didn't want to do that. And I understand certain people will say, well, hey, that gives me confidence in the future of Xbox. This is kind of a cheesy line, but I'll say, trust that this is important to us as a platform. From the top CEO of the company on down, if you talk to Satya about it, he would say, I understand we need to invest in content in the gaming space.
But overall, I mean, the quality is going up a lot. You know, it would have been easy to say, hey, we've got more power, let's just take the Xbox One version and crank up the resolution. But actually what we've gone and done is brought over a lot of our stuff from the PC version of the game. Are better atmospheric, so we've got volumetric clouds and lighting now on Xbox One X. We've got higher draw distances equal to PC Epic settings, higher resolution textures, all sorts of stuff. And it's going to be really awesome. Everybody who owns it on Xbox gets it through the cross-play functionality and backwards compatibility. Wow. So if you get an Xbox One X, you have all your save games and all that stuff, you just get that boost of extra quality as a consumer product. But when you think about that price for what you might pay for a similarly spec PC, it doesn't seem unreasonable to me at all.
What about PlayStation? You know, you're a gamer, you know this. It's like, how different do you think it's going to feel?
Well, I can tell you it already feels much more different when you pop in a game that you've been playing on Xbox One and it's enhanced for Xbox One X.
So PS4 Pro versus Xbox One X, how much different will it be?
Oh, I mean, I would say probably 50% in terms of
Are you going to have the same frame
stuff.
rate, same everything on PS4 Pro versus One X, you think?
In our game?
Yeah.
It's not really possible. You know, there's a couple reasons for that. The Xbox One X not only has faster processing, it has a lot more RAM, too.
Okay.
So that's why we're able to put in all the extra draw distances, all the extra meshes, higher resolution textures.
So 60 on One X?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And variable frame rate, like I said, you know, it's an online game, so there's all sorts of crazy stuff going on.
What's happening, YouTube? It's K-Mega405 live from the 405, where I'm just your regular gamer talking to the intelligent gamers. Now, it has been one hell of a weekend. It's been one hell of a week because E3 has been absolutely phenomenal for me, just because of the fact that I could just sit back and I could absorb everything without too much interruption. Yeah, I did the stuff with BGST and with Next. But for the most part, just soaking it all in and just listening and watching the conferences, all of them, I came out pretty excited. I came out looking at this as like, damn, you know what I'm saying? Gaming is in a really good place right now. But of course, when you jump into Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all these other places where there's the negative element, it weighs on you. You kind of look at it from a standpoint of like, damn, what is the purpose? Why should I even be playing any of these consoles? Because there's always something negative with all of them. Now look, I'm not going to try to do the kumbaya shit. That's not what I came to make this video for. What I come to do is just to address how ridiculous so many people will try to make one aspect of something seem like it's dire, but before that it was never discussed with anything. Now, case in point, beginning of this generation, of course, we already know it was about the resolution. It was about the 1080p or death scenario. It was the love of indies. It was caring for the little guy. Then all of a sudden things change and then it started to become more about the AAA exclusives. Then that started to change just here recently, and now it started to talk about frames per second. Now, I made a video talking about it so much because it was basically this whole Destiny thing that kind of sparked this. But really, it's fascinating because when people used to bring up the fact that, hey, Xbox can do frames per second, I mean, just look at Killer Instinct. They could go over 60 frames per second with no problem. We're talking about 80, 90 frames per second, but that was never ever an issue. That was always something that was debunked. It was laughed at. But it was only 720p. But what's funny is that even PC guys break things down differently. Listen to this. Somebody said, actually, my 1070, which is very close to the 980 Ti, does many games, including Rise of the Tomb Raider, at 4K 30 max settings. Not that max settings matter. The PS4 Pro isn't using PC max settings. And it's funny because checkerboarding is also with PC games. Check this out. Rainbow Six Siege offers a similar technique that's default on the PC, with pretty significant performance returns, although with softened image quality. I'm sure we're going to see more games like that. Then somebody goes as far as to say, well, hell, I would even be willing to use checkerboarding 1080p in the future when games become too much for my GPU. So again, these are diehard PC gamers that's talking about checkerboarding that's coming into games and how it's beneficial to the GPU. Also talking about they at max settings with these $700 to $1,100 graphics cards only max out at 4K 30 for the newer games. With last gen's games, they could do 4K 60. So if they are having those type of assets, then why the hell is it such a bad thing for the X to push 30 frames per second if people with $1,000 graphic cards is not hitting 60 frames per second as well? I think that these are one of those things that people just don't want to talk about or give Xbox credit. And this is why I showed the clips in the very beginning of the video to illustrate again that Phil Spencer has not deviated, or anybody from the Xbox staff. They never changed their stance. This was a premium console. It was our fault that was the ones that were saying that it's going to be $399. I mean, we were looking at it from the fanboy aspect of it. Like, okay, yeah, we want Xbox to make this big grandstand and finally get out there and start selling these consoles because they're going to have the most powerful one at $399. And as my boy Newark and as Zaire has been saying, those guys don't get enough credit because they were on it. They were absolutely on it. And the fact of it is that, look, a lot of us had to eat crow about that. But when you look at the price, it's just like what the developer of Ark said. For what you're getting, it may seem like it's expensive, but if you want to look at it from a standpoint of, we're talking about PC assets on this console, it's affordable as hell. That's a positive, right? No, that's supposed to be a negative. There's people that are saying that they just won't get it. Well, that's fine. There is the Pro that's going to be available, and there's also the Xbox One S that will be available. And then that's going to be looked at as though, well, those are weaker things. Well, of course, don't forget about the Pro. The Pro is weaker. You heard the developer saying that thing is like 50% less powerful. It just can't achieve these things that the Xbox X can. So if you are a person that was the ones that was bragging and bitching and moaning about graphics and resolution and all of this, then it would be smart for you to go ahead and buy an X, because if you want the most powerful console, it's damn sure not going to be the PlayStation. Not until we find out what's going on with the PlayStation 5. Another thing that's funny to me is that this whole frames per second issue that just won't die. It's been brought up and respectfully and negatively from different people that, oh, well, this system can't achieve it. Look, Phil Spencer said it right there. There will be games that's going to be 60 frames per second, and it's going to be 4K. I mean, we're talking about Forza already. Well, that's a race car game. Still, it can achieve it. If the Xbox One Fat can achieve high frames per second, and there's other games that can achieve the 1080p and the 60 frames per second, this system can do it. It's more powerful than my computer, and my computer hits it with no problem. It's just up to the developers. Again, we don't need to go after Phil Spencer. We don't need to go after anybody from the Xbox staff or the Xbox One X. We need to go after the ones that makes the games. And if you want these games to be made at 60 frames per second, then you have to contact the developers. And then it's up to them to make that decision. The whole thing with Destiny, that was just their decision. And who's to say that later on down the line that they won't optimize that game for the X later on? Maybe that PlayStation had something behind it. Maybe they didn't. Who knows? But it was the developer's decision. It wasn't because the box wasn't capable. Now, as we were hearing that the Pro can't do it. So therefore you get the understanding for that. But when it comes to the X, you can get it. But the developers don't. And these games have already been developed. They're almost done. These games are about to come out in the next 2 or 3 months. So for them to go back and to rechange everything is stupid. So what we're going to see is in the future how these games are going to work and how they're going to operate. Now, when people keep bringing up the PC aspect of it, it's kind of funny to me, right? Because yeah, you know, the PC is its own animal. But if you compare, everybody wants to compare the PC to the Xbox, but nobody wants to compare the PC to the PlayStation. I mean, if you really want to look at it, the PlayStation is just as insignificant as the Xbox is if it comes to a person that really wants to put their money behind their PC. That's a fact. So check it out. Okay, the biggest and most popular games that's on PC right now, they're games that's not graphically demanding or really too much about, you know, frames per second, unless you're looking at, like, I guess you would say, not Minecraft, I'm sorry, it's Overwatch. Overwatch is a shooter, so of course you want to have high frames per second. But when you're looking at Dota, Warcraft, you're looking at League of Legends, and then I said Minecraft already, and then you got Hearthstone. Who the hell cares about 60 frames or 120 frames per second with Hearthstone? These are like some of the most popular games. Now, of course, there's some games that's like The Witcher, and then you have, you know, Grand Theft Auto 5. Those games, yeah, you could add those settings to it, and you can raise up the frames per second. But the most popular games, you got Goat Simulator, you have Farm Simulator. Do you really think that those frames per second is that important to those games? If you do, then you're just a fool. This is just one of these crazy fanboy antics that just to hate on a system because it's not their preferred. That's just a fact. I'd like to hear your thoughts about it, guys. Have a good one. Happy Father's Day. Peace.
Getting back on track if you want me back.